the one.
Get the out of here.
The Sharon Stone. Basic Instinct, now re-released in 4K. Celebration. Basic Instinct, arguably the greatest erotic thriller ever.
What do you think? It was of the century.
Put Sharon Stone on the map as Hollywood's top sex symbol in the early 90s and added to Michael Douglas's resume of all-time performances.
I don't remember how often I used to jerk off, but it was a lot.
Through layered and allegorical filmmaking and storytelling, Dutch director Paul Verhoeven delivered a shocking and satirical take on sexuality and its impact in early 90s America. A neo-noir thriller, seemingly about a wealthy ex-rock star murdered immediately after the act of intercourse.
He got off before he got off.
Soon becomes a cat and mouse story of sexual obsession between primary murder suspect Catherine Trammell and San Francisco PD detective Nick Curran. The beauty of Basic Instinct is its shift from did Trammell murder to how she manipulates everyone after she murders. From the iconography of the infamous leg-crossing interrogation scene, where Trammell assertively uses her high sexuality to manipulate and outmaneuver the San Francisco PD, to the way the movie is able to satirize the manipulative use of sexuality, but also satirize itself concisely without gloating in its own self-reflection.
No smoking in this building, Miss Trammell.
What are you gonna do? Charge me with smoking?
There's no smoking in this building, detective.
What are you gonna do, charge me with smoking?
I don't understand. What are you talking about?
Private joke, asshole.
A rich, glamorous novelist who inherited a fortune through her parents' demise and writes about murders which subsequently take place. Maybe an exaggerated character and naff plotline, but that isn't the point. Sharon Stone's iconic performance as Catherine Trammell offers an unapologetic and unflinching look at an antisocial personality, using her mind and body at the expense of those around her. Michael Douglas's iconic performance as Nick Curran, the well-seasoned and morally jaded detective,
Looks like civic-minded, very respectable cocaine.
who allows himself to become susceptible to Trammell's sexual advances,
I like you.
is the perfect yin to Stone's yang. Thus, the allegorical subtext of sexual tension between Trammell and Curran begins to take center stage of the movie. Rather than a generic, Douglas is the cop, he goes and catches Stone the bad guy, he's good, she's bad, shame on her. Narrative aside, allegorically, Basic Instinct is a film about a man playing with fire getting involved with Stone, but is too damaged himself not to be drawn to a damaged female predator. In terms of the actual plotline itself, it might be inferior to the hidden undertones, but still fairly delicious. In terms of yes, Trammell is generally considered to have committed the murders, but still her lesbian stroke bisexual lover Roxy may have done one of them, as she tried to kill Curran. Yes, Curran's part-time lover and police psychologist Beth, who was obsessed with Trammell and had a brief romantic past with her, may have been responsible for at least one of the murders Trammell is suspected of. Both the actresses who played Roxy and Triplehorn who played Beth are great. Roxy as the typical pissed off external alpha female,
If you don't leave her alone, I'll kill you.
and Beth as the seemingly two-faced covert narcissist. We can basically confirm by the end of the film Trammell is the killer, as we see the infamous ice pick under the bed. Not conclusively, as we don't actually see her face at any point when the murders are being executed, if you'll entertain the pun. We know, but we don't know, but we know.
Get the out of here.
Yeah, for all of Douglas and Stone's palpable sexual tension, it wouldn't be Basic Instinct without old Gussie boy.
Hi guys.
That's your talking, it ain't your brain.
George Dunstan as Gus. If Douglas is the perfect yin to Stone's yang, Dunstan is the perfect yang to Douglas's yin. The voice and conscience of the Basic Instinct audience,
Everybody she plays with dies.
done in a way that only Dunstan can do. Whether it be offering Pfeiffer moral support in Dangerous Minds,
I'm right next to him.
or farting about with his flappy hair at Russian American weddings in The Deer Hunter, it wouldn't be Basic Instinct without old Gussie boy. On that note, it wouldn't be Basic Instinct without Verhoeven's movie one-liners.
I'd buy that for $1.
I'd buy that for $1 in RoboCop, and of course, Gus's sarcastic one-liner,
You think you can like minks, raise rugrats, and live happily ever after?
a line that then gets recycled by Douglas as he starts to project his own plan for the relationship.
Like minks raise rugrats. Live happily ever after.
He's using a line of sarcasm intended to make him see clarity as a justification for continuing the relationship.
Like minks raise rugrats. Live happily ever after.
He's satirically using a cynical line of sarcasm as the non-sarcastic relationship plan. In other words, he himself at his core is cynical about this romantic thing that has developed. The relationship's whole foundation ultimately is just attraction based. Two predators that are bored and have found each other. Aside from that, there is no longevity for these two.
Hate Rugrats.
No Rugrats indeed.
Like Binks, forget the Rugrats, and live happily ever after.
It's just sex. Just as Hollywood tries to sell sex as something more than just sex. The illusion of meeting the attractive idealized partner. Like minks, raising Rugrats, and living happily ever after. Ultimately, Hollywood is just selling sex for sex, minus the Rugrats, and thus minus the living happily ever after. It wouldn't be a Verhoeven movie without the one-liners, and it wouldn't be a Verhoeven movie without the sarcastic jerk with the sadistic sense of humor.
What the f***er dead?
I don't blame you, man. I wouldn't want a guy like Quaid porking my old lady.
You saying she likes it?
No, I'm sure she hated every minute of it.
Don't work too hard, shooter. Might drive you to drink.
Stop riding me, man! I'll kick your f***ing teeth in!
Here comes the shrink. Well, just in time to save her favorite patient.
F*** off, Marty.
You kids have a good time tonight, huh?
That look of Schadenfreude is Verhoeven at his very best. That is such good acting. You kids have a good time tonight.
You kids have a good time tonight.
Corin and Beth are getting laid. But they're the pathetic ones. The two kids who should go and engage in their pathetic, primitive, primal mating rituals. You kids have a good time tonight. The new 4K restoration overall offers a favourable update to a now 30-year-old classic.
It's nice.
The 4K restoration is the cinematic compliment this masterpiece deserves and has earned. Far closer to the original look than, for example, the overly green field the Terminator 2 4K scan received. The update this movie needed. People forget how groundbreaking and commercially successful Basic Instinct was in an era just before the internet and the omnipresence of online adult material. A quote-unquote sexy movie was arguably the most talked about film in '92.
Paul Verhoeven's thriller Basic Instinct,
with Freddie Mercury passing away from AIDS and Magic Johnson being diagnosed with HIV less than a year prior in '91, mainstream public discourse regarding sex was becoming taboo. Basic Instinct's tenacious sexual discourse and portrayal of tenacious female sexuality, however, was unshaken by the fearful zeitgeist of its time. The iconography of Sharon Stone's now infamous leg crossing scene propelled the 34-year-old Stone to overnight stardom, and the scene itself immediately became an iconic piece of cinematic history.
It's nice.
It's nice.
I'd have to be pretty stupid to write a book about killing and then kill somebody.
Yeah.
Sexy movies and cheap imitations were now commercially viable. Michael Douglas actually offered a layered and cerebral performance as the quote-unquote damaged bad boy.
He went to bed, 10, 15 times maybe? Wasn't memorable enough to carry an obligation.
Not the typical modern-day bad boy from erotic streaming shows and movies like 50 Shades of Lame or others. Sadly, showing you're a quote-unquote damaged bad boy through personality like James Woods, Mickey Rourke and Michael Douglas is no more.
I don't give a about her.
Shut up! Just shut up! Get the out!
You tell me I don't have a way with women?
Just get a 6'4" dude with a six-pack and that will substitute character and circumvent intelligent plotline.
You tell me, you're the shrink.
What the hell is going on?
You're the shrink, you told me.
Michael Douglas, if you can forgive the V-neck and flat bum was more than just a human dildo. Hollywood commercialism and commerce being what it is, since Basic Instinct was a financially successful piece of art, immediately the Hollywood studio machine felt compelled to rush out another Sharon Stone quote-unquote sexy movie. Haha, if we get the scriptwriter from Basic Instinct, Joe Esterhaus, and we team him up again with Sharon Stone, we'll have another masterpiece on our hands. Genius, yeah! Unfortunately, all UB40 soundtracks to one side. 1993's Sliver was many things, but masterpiece?
You think I'm too young for you, don't you?
Oh my God. What?
Was not one of those things. And Hollywood's actual masterpiece being both a work of art and commerce, the early 90s community, that would later be referred to as the LGBTQ community, felt at liberty to go after this seemingly evil piece of commerce which apparently functioned to denigrate and oppress the aforementioned community.
We did not want to be censors, but we wanted to act. We knew that this was a piece of commerce as much as it was a work of art, in fact, probably more so.
Art good, commerce bad. This film highlights the LGBTQ and made not by the LGBTQ, but by the Hollywood studio machine. Hollywood bad, LGBTQ good. Let's manufacture some indignation and be party poopers, yeah!
They started to cut the cables when we were shooting, basically so that you couldn't use the shot because there would be lamps of course shining right into the camera.
Let's indignantly boycott a nuanced work of art without any nuance or without even seeing it. Me read script. Scripts say feminine bisexual one live, masculine lesbian one die. Me angry, art bad.
The typical story, yet again, the real lesbian in the film is going to wind up dead, the bisexual is going to wind up with the man.
Bro.
Man to man.
Roxy is the hanger-on wannabe femme fatale who's just perpetually pissed off. Trammell is the one with the real masculine interior. She just has a more feminine exterior. As Paul Verhoeven said,
the movie is pro-gay from the very beginning because being gay is an accepted fact. It's like biological. Making it to a non-issue is the ultimate sign of being adult about it.
Sadly, if it wasn't for outrage, the outrage mob would have nothing to do. Just a shame in 1992, they were awake before more people had become woke. So not only did Basic Instinct make quote-unquote sexy movies more commercially viable for a little bit and a source of 90s teenage self-indulgence, pre-internet of course, it also made a superstar and an early 90s sex symbol out of a previously unknown struggling 80s actress, the one, the only, Madame Sharon Stone. The Pennsylvania native who'd migrated to California a decade earlier, at a time when Hollywood was still serving up chips, and I don't mean the type you serve with fish. After years of blood, sweat, tears, marriage, serial monogamy, and the single life, the aspiring star finally made it big as a global sex symbol in the Indian summer of her prime. Initially starring in a slew of forgettable roles and getting married to the Jewish Michael Bolton. It's always nice when an aspiring career woman who's sassy, strong and independent can be momentarily dependent on her until death do us part husband. At least until her career takes off and life do them part. Pre-Basic Instinct, post-Michael Bolton, she even starred in the Paul Verhoeven movie where she tricks Arnie until he catches wind and shoots her in the head.
We're married.
Consider that a divorce.
And thus, after momentarily tricking Arnie until he got wise to her act, she got tricked into taking off her quote-unquote underpants by the calculating arty-farty European director, and her stardom was born.
Sharon Stone.
And with that, history was made. Sharon crossed over her legs to get what she wanted, and a generation of 90s teenage girls followed suit. Sharon then starred in the UB40 movie, which successfully failed to set any trends.
Get a life.
Bruv, so what when she done The Specialist?
I left my purse in the room and I had to...
Shut up.
She had a threesome of sexy movies where she was marketed as the sex symbol. Don't tell me otherwise, I lived through it. The one with gear was a film of no consequence, The Specialist, which is now viewed as a guilty pleasure. Starring the two stars Stone and Stallone, the movie's true gem is a hammy, unforgettably corrupt, slimeball performance from James Woods.
You raped you! You killed! Right! God damn it, son of a... What are you looking at? Turn around!
Use the stairs, this one's full. Get out of here, get a new shirt.
With chemistry between himself and Stone usurping their on-screen chemistry in Casino.
You don't call him back, that's what he's...
It's this fucking bullshit of yours.
What bullshit? What are you fucking talking over now?
Yakking up this key. You might clean up pretty good. Go ahead.
As she broke through at the ripe old age of 34 in Basic Instinct, which marked the start of her on-screen sex symbol status, The Specialist marks the end, with scenes on the one hand where she looks like a middle-aged ESPN news anchor, and scenes on the other hand where she's so sultry and sensual she's almost having an orgasm when the bombs explode. Explosive sensuality at its finest. You ain't past it yet, honey.
Get a life.
In Casino, she's not the sex symbol, she's the hustling gold digger trophy housewife. Different. Is it her second best work after Basic Instinct? You better believe it.
Oh.
Did she deserve to win the Oscar she was nominated for? You bet she did.
You know, I'm driving down the freeway and the fuck things beep, 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 beep.
Is it touching her performance as Catherine Trammell in Basic Instinct?
Get the out of here.
The answer is absolutely not. As she approached 40, she had a second great epiphany that not being married is bad and married the man who looks like his name should be Baron Munchausen or Colonel Sanders. She then unfortunately had a miscarriage, followed by adopting kids, followed by unfortunately a life-threatening stroke, which led to Colonel Sanders abandoning her, and thus years passing since she was a big star in the 90s. Now before I critique Sharon for her "I'm old now and pissed off" antics, allow me first to give her the proper credit she deserves. Her work on Basic Instinct is second to none. The dynamism of the singular portrayal, someone who is a sociopath or antisocial personality disorder, APD, not BPD, yet there's such borderline-esque behaviour.
I can't allow myself to care about you. I lose everybody.
Which a YouTuber has greatly amplified in his subcommunication translation videos.
What is this, some kind of joke?
The body of work, the craftsmanship that Stone put down in 1992. The work is that frigging good. She's personally my favourite actress on the strength of just 2 roles.
And no one is more surprised than me. Look, I'm a kid from nowhere.
The problem is when she now, as a 62-year-old quote-unquote kid from nowhere, continuously attempts to draw attention from bitching about what a raw deal she had during her time as a woman in the oppressive patriarchy that is Hollywood.
I think misogyny is strong and is still incredibly strong.
I think when we're 40, the white male society starts to tell women you don't have worth.
One tends to think to oneself, hold on, the 62-year-old kid from nowhere lived a life most of us can only dream of and will never have. Yet the 62-year-old kid from nowhere persists to pontificate to us, the masses, about how women have a raw deal at the hands of the patriarchy she seems to loathe.
The white male society starts to tell women you don't have worth.
Yet that same white patriarchy's cinematic infrastructure provided the kid with a lifetime of accomplishment and adulation that is out of reach to the vast majority of us lowly admirers. Yeah, could it be the postmenopausal kid can no longer acquire narcissistic supply from the public perception of sex symbolism? Could it be her newfound compassion for a myriad of social issues, including Me Too, racial inequality, online dating, social media, and Syrian refugees function as the new means of narcissistic supply via the public perception of benevolence?
Get the out of here.
Interestingly enough, Sharon told Naomi Campbell online dating is better than the old-fashioned way because it can't just be all flirting and chemistry without the biographical social proof.
You have to say who you are.
While simultaneously telling The Telegraph the old-fashioned way of dating is better because nobody talks to each other anymore. The days of flirting in person are dead, so nobody is allowed the opportunity to build up genuine chemistry anymore. It's such a shame. The odd slap on the rear end is acceptable if it means people are sociable and sexually outgoing like they once were in the 90s. Right, the odd slap on the rear end is acceptable in this digital dystopia Me Too era.
Most women can't stand being called bird, chick or babe.
Where if you even approach a girl, she looks at you like you're a UFO. You're just gonna go around slapping her rear end. Oh, so what, bro? Who needs to talk to girls in person anymore when you can slide into the DMs, man? Or swipe right on Tinder? Right, slide into the DMs and swipe on Tinder. Cool. I'll just throw a pebble into the ocean while I'm at it.
I love how democratizing the internet is.
Okay, in other words, I'm old and I don't get sexual attention anymore. So rather than accept the fact that I'm past it and age gracefully, I'll blame men, social media, and dating apps. Woman, you're 63. If she was born in 1988 rather than 1958, exact same personality and background, and currently in an Indian summer of her prime now, she wouldn't give a shit about the online shift. If she was old enough to remember what it was like regularly getting hit on in the street 7 to 10 years ago, but just about young enough to still get the attention on the gram, TikTok, Snapchat and whatever else, there would be no retrospective insight. As long as she's putting up stupid bum videos, doing squats in her yoga pants at the gym, she wouldn't care that there's been a shift in how attention is acquired. Attention is attention is attention, and it's clear as day, Sharon deals in the attention economy. Sharon, sweet baby girl, got infected by that Hollywood narcissism a long time ago and thus addicted to narcissistic supply. She had the lifestyle of a successful, publicly adored woman and was sexy at a time when sexy women were actually playful and had personality.
Walking down the street, we'll go, Sharon Stone! I'd go, what?
Rather than this one-size-fits-all social media persona.
And that's what fourth wave feminism is about. It's about accessibility to technology.
The fact she won't let her grudge against Paul Verhoeven go, as he apparently tricked her underpants-wise,
if it hadn't been for director Paul Verhoeven, who knows what might have become of her,
speaks volumes. Sorry you were coerced into signing a Faustian pact with the Dutch devil. Sadly, she's just pissed off in general. Pissed off she always wanted to be a star more than an actress, but didn't make it until the twilight of her prime. Pissed off she never had faith in her talent as an actress rather than just a star until the twilight of her prime. Pissed off she made prolific poor choices in men, including Italian toy boy Angelo, the millionaire mama's boy DiBiase. But mainly, she's pissed off she's not Sharon Stone anymore, but the 63-year-old kid from nowhere. In summary, Basic Instinct, quite possibly the greatest erotic thriller ever, represents a time when sexy women actually had charm and charisma through the depiction of a female sociopath.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
Now released in 4K, at a time when current quote-unquote sexy women have less charm and charisma than their 90s predecessors, yet seem hell-bent on emulating the traits of sociopaths, psychopaths and narcissists more than their 90s predecessors. Nothing conveys this like the original pose of Stone and Douglas on the original poster. At the time an outlier, now the typical mainstream setup of boss babes, posing with their beta boyfriends whilst fantasizing about sexual submission with Diego Gorgeous. As we reach the 30th year anniversary mark, Basic Instinct remains an unforgettable erotic thriller masterpiece that propelled to stardom the one, the only, the Sharon Stone.